Hello and welcome. More than likely, if you're seeing this, it's a welcome back. I want to start this video off by giving you guys an apology. And like I said, more than likely, if you're seeing this video, it's a welcome back. My analytics say that my viewers these days are majority people who have seen my content before. And so more than likely, you know what I'm talking about when I say I need to issue you guys an apology for my final video in the All About Love series. Look, that video was not supposed to be 10 seconds long. As you know, if you were looking at the series, most of the videos were about an hour. I think the one that was the shortest leading up to the last video was 45 minutes, but most of them were a good little chunk of time. And that video, I honestly could not really see the visuals initially. You know, I was like Beyonce with the visuals. I didn't have them, but I knew I was going to figure it out. I just didn't realize or calculate how much time it was going to take me to figure it out. And as I sat down to edit the first part, which was like my, the background and the statistics and talking about Dr. Helen Fisher, which by the way, I talked about her because I knew people would probably question, and maybe you guys did, maybe you didn't, I'm not sure, but I knew people might question why I brought her up and not like Bell Hooks, or, we're in Black History Month, why not bring up a Black author that's talked about love, specifically romantic love. So first of all, I looked to see if there were any Black authors or researchers who had devoted their entire careers to romantic love, because that is what Helen Fisher did. I first found out about her back in 2007, when she was doing a lot of work for the Match Group. She even came up with a dating app around a lot of her ideas about love and attraction. Helen Fisher is a great example of someone who was mystified by something because she was on the outside of it for so long. She didn't get married until she was in her 70s. She got married at 72. So I couldn't find any Black creators, I'll just use that word, whose work most specifically fit the tone and idea of what I was doing. I wasn't talking about love kind of in the general sense or just the feeling of it. I kind of wanted to talk about in that video why it's such a big focus for us. And it is a big focus. No matter where you stand in the world with it right now, romantic love tends to be a super big focus for people's lives. And so I kind of wanted some statistics about that. That's why I included Helen Fisher. And then I wanted to include some of the love stories that I have loved forever from Hollywood. So I had like a long list of those. And I remembered as I was getting into the editing that copyright on YouTube is a whole thing. I don't know how people be doing it. When people be doing like the Love is Blind reviews, and they be having, all the clip when the movie reviews, there's one account that I used to follow where all he did was review country music. How are you getting these clips, man? How are you getting this music? How are you doing this? And I mean, I guess you can like write someone and, hey, I need to do blah, blah, blah. But I've had issues with YouTube in the past where I posted a video and it said, okay, well, this is copyright, but you can still post it if you want. And then I've had videos where it said, hey, part of your video is copyright, so you have to share the proceeds with someone else. And with that situation, I was like, okay, sure, I'll share. I made like $7 off the whole video and it got like 50,000 views. I should have made way more than that. So I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. And then I've had situations with YouTube where they say, hey, this is copyright. You can't even post this. Even if you wanted to just post it and get it out there and you're not going to make no money, you can't. This is actually banned. You can't show this at all. It can't be viewed anywhere. So I knew I didn't want to deal with that. So a lot of the love stories and stuff I wanted to grab, I couldn't do. So I was facing a lot of obstacles. And then there was the obstacles of just putting it all together. And I sat there and I was editing and I was on like hour 7 of editing. Yes, that's right. That 15-minute segment you saw, that took me 7 hours. And I said, you know what? I'm going to stop. And here's why I'm going to stop. Here's why. First of all, I don't know how many people will actually watch this when it's done. So I think with that last one, it is a flop by the analytics on my channel, like by how that's concerned. And if I was still in the part of my creator career where I was trying to get like sponsorships and stuff like that, I would actually completely delete it because back in the day when I first started, they were like, okay, you're going to do great with brands. Just make sure you stay above 30,000 views per video. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but as I started falling below that consistently, the brand deal sort of dried up. It is what it is. It's the reality of creating content. But that one in particular, there was a brand manager, or I forget what she was. I think that's what she did. I talked to a lot of people at the beginning of my YouTube career. I really did. But anyway, so she was talking to me and she was like, yeah, so you might want to delete those that have done really poorly. So anything that's below 10K, delete it. So that video in particular, I would delete if this was back in the day. Because it's not back in the day and I don't really care like that anymore, I'm going to leave it. But it did do really poorly. And I think part of that was because it was so short. But also just in general, the series, the views were kind of low for the whole series. And I also was losing quite a bit of subscribers with every upload. I think I lost quite a bit of subscribers. I'll just put it like that. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, you have been doing this for 7 hours and we're at 15 minutes. If you get into this video like you want to, we're looking at a total of 30 hours. Based on how many people have watched these videos so far, you're looking at about maybe 10,000 views, maybe 15,000 at the most. That means that you will make 20 cents an hour on editing this video. Is that something you want to do? And so I kind of had to say, you know what? I'm going to just bring this series to a close and post this video. And I hate that it wasn't even 20 minutes. And I was thinking, I was like, I so Harlemed them. I Harlemed my audience. And by Harlemed, I mean, if you saw this last season of Harlem on Amazon, then you know that after waiting several years, they only came out with 6 episodes. The episodes felt rushed. They had, one of the characters giving birth to a 40-pound baby, called it a newborn. The episodes felt like, it just wasn't. I watched the first season. Second season kind of turned me off. I have not watched the third season, but I heard a lot of criticism about it. And the biggest one was it just felt so rushed. And so I was laughing. I was like, I totally Harlemed everybody. I just, spat out this last video. But it was honestly because I had to do a cost benefit analysis. Like, you're going to put in all this work and how much are you going to get back from it? And you've already given away so much of your time. There's only when you work and you do YouTube, when you do YouTube for work, as work, and not just as like, yeah, it's some nice side income, a little bit here and there, but I have 7 other streams of income. I'm not worried. When YouTube is your main gig, you only have so many days to make something pop. And here we are, we're on the back end of February now, and I'm like, ooh, I posted all those videos. I could have made videos about doo-doo-doo, boo-boo, boo-boo, and made way more money. And so it was time to put an end to that particular passion project. But I ended up actually really liking it. I really liked the last video, even though it's so short. And, I just want to say, again, if you watched it, if you shared your story and I didn't put it in, now you know what happened. I was sitting there looking at a short list, though. I will say this. I was looking at a short list of all the stories that were sent to me and that I had put on a different document. And I had like 10 or 15 that I was going to include. And then I was like, well, this is taking a long time. So let's do, maybe let's do 10. Let's do whatever. And then anyway, you get me on the time thing. But I also want to say that I pulled those 10 or 15 when I only had like 200 comments. At some point in the week, I had 600 comments, 700 comments. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start from scratch. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that right now. And then on a real tip, let's be real. By that point in the process of posting those videos and talking about that subject, from my point of view, I didn't know what I would run into in the comment section. So the first video, I let it kind of be known, hey, I'm not really interested in coaches and advisors and advice. Like, especially on this one, I just want to hear the good stuff. Like, just share the good stuff. Just do that if you have it. I kind of felt like a bereft robber baron, stealing people's joy for my content. But hey, it is what it is. However, some people cannot engage with things. It's so funny because this past summer I thought about doing a video where I compared the typical YouTube user to a different character in Inside Out, but I had generated new characters on an Inside Out character generator, and I named the characters like the empathizer, the silent watcher, the coach, the critic. I named them all, and I used a story. I made up a story. This is something I actually filmed, and I generated characters, but I never posted it because I did say, Stephanie, this might be a little bit lame. However, it was an idea that I had because I noticed some people, they're going to need to interact with your content based on their particular audience member profile. If that person feels like they need to be a critic, they're going to be a critic every time. They're not going to be able to stop it. That's how they're going to show up. Okay. And it can change based on the subject matter. I had some people who were super sweet in the first video, and then by the third were fully on their critic game. Stephanie, this is what's wrong with you, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for coming, but you can't really stop how people decide to interact with your content. This is not my classroom. Y'all are not 7th graders. I can't tell you grown ass adults what to do in a comment section. So by the time I got to the very last video and I realized, I have so many more experiences, people are sharing so much more, I also knew I had kind of hit my limit on reading certain types of insight and certain types of comments. I was at my limit when it came to responding democratically. I'll be wanting to whip out the fingers too, but I said, I'm not going to do that. And I just said, you know what, Stephanie, let's move on. So that's what I did. I posted the last video. It's super short. Now, here's what I am thinking. After I've taken a little bit of a break from that vibe on this channel, because let's just be real, anytime I talk about my opinions when it comes to love and relationship and my experiences, I'm going to always get that ass clapped up. Okay. That's nasty, but you get what I'm saying, right? People are always going to show up. They've got their clipboard, they've got their pen, and they are ready to advise and criticize. And some people I noticed, I will say this, they would share a story. They'd be like, yeah, my first love. Oh, gosh, I saw them on a summer's day. I was skipped to Malou, my darling, to my grandmother's, and they were out there, and we held hands and we're in love forever. And that's why every morning you got to wake up and you got to say 10 affirmations. And if you don't do that, if you don't believe in yourself and you don't have that self-love, how can you expect to hold hands and skip to Malou, my darling? Okay. How can you expect to meet anybody outside your grandmother's house? You can't. And this is why I'm telling you, sometimes I'm here for it. I'm like, okay, let them do what they want to do. And sometimes I'm like, man, no, that's really how I be feeling. So however you want to interact with something is on you. But I noticed that I had just reached an emotional wall. I was like, I can't deal with it no more. So I'm so sorry. If you posted your story, your situation after, I want to say, Wednesday of last week, that's kind of when I hit I don't know about if I'm going to be able to, then I most likely didn't get it in time. And then even if you did post it before that, just me trying to edit and put it all together, I was like, girl, this is like 3 days of work. You can't, girl. So I definitely bit off more than I could chew with that idea. I will be coming back to it at a later time. So don't erase your story. Don't do anything just yet. I think I'm going to repackage it in some kind of way for Women's History Month, which we're still having no matter what our president and White House want to say. And so that's why that episode was short. I want to thank you, those of you who did tune into the series, especially, if you decided not to go ahead and unsubscribe from the channel. I want to talk about why I am so proud of myself for doing that series. So, like I said, from a monetary standpoint, from a subscriber standpoint, I didn't even really meet my own creative goals as far as the last episode was concerned. But in the month of January, I was completely emotionally and creatively paralyzed. Okay? Just no ideas. Well, I had ideas, but no energy. Like to come and to sit in my little setup over here, which I will be changing soon because this was a lot of work and it shouldn't be like that. You should just be able to come and sit down and just start talking. To come and sit in my little setup here, to set this all up, to go put on the makeup, to, the little bit of makeup I got on, right? To set up your lights, to do whatever. That was something that was so far away from what I wanted to do. And then I think what our country has been going through. Oh my God. Every day it was like, especially in January, every day it was like, what fresh hell is this? What fresh hell is this? Every day. I think the day that broke my heart the most was the day I woke up and we found out that the government was going to try to freeze all of the health benefits and medical benefits and just freeze all the benefits for people. I don't even receive them. And I was like, what? I had an aching pain in my chest all day. And in general, in the month of January. Oh, and let's not forget about the weather. Okay? Snow, sleet, rain every day. And then on top of that, what you going through the weather here in Texas, we get 7 days into the new year. And we got wildfires in LA? And we got what? I can't even imagine. If you're in that area, and it's so crazy because after the news stops covering it, after we stop posting about it online, those neighborhoods were decimated. I know people are still out there struggling. Like, that's how we start the year. So January, it was very, very difficult for me to even want to make something. And it's a little different over on Patreon because I can show up in my pajamas at my kitchen table. I can do a vlog about me making gumbo for New Year's Day and completely ruining the gumbo. Completely ruining it. To the point where I threw it up. Like, it was very bad. Retrying. Like, I can do that kind of stuff and I don't have to worry about, are people going to watch? What are the analytics? But when it comes time to make a YouTube video, it's like, well, damn, what do you do? And then I had been toying around with, do I want to do like a podcast? Is there any way for me to take Stephanie and, in this 4th year of content creating, 4 years now, is there any way to expand? Because, we were going one way and then it was like, nope, I don't want to do that. And so we stopped. And then it was like, well, maybe let me try this. That's not what the people like. And then it was like, let me just maybe try and get through and post anything. Damn. And so I thought, well, maybe because I have so much to say around the topic of being 40, I don't want to say an ex-evangelical, but because I don't want people to think I'm no offense if you are, but I'm not an atheist or anything like that. But I was raised in like purity culture and that whole and I'm not there anymore. I'm actually so far moved from that. So be 40 years old, single, ex-evangelical, and have seen so much when it comes to the trends of how you talk about love and relationships. Maybe I have something to offer in that vein. And so I said, well, what about this? It's February. Let's do it. And I think I've already explained that. I even went as far as to cut one of my videos down. And this isn't necessarily the clip that I would have posted to like Instagram, to Reels, to whatever, because I look crazy and my wig looks big but I was just trying it out. So I signed up for this app called Captions that will put captions and edit the video in fun little ways and work, whatever. And based on the response that I got, I was like, oh no, I'm not going any further with this particular concept because I see, like they say in Amelia Perez, which anyway, my point is that I was so proud of myself for climbing out of a mental and emotional hole to the point where I could make 5 original pieces of long form content, post them to my channel, a channel that is definitely in there or in her WTF state. What are we doing, girl? And I think I answered that question for myself. And the answer is whatever I want. If I'm not able to expand past this point, if this is all there ever is to my internet to my media journey, then I'll post whatever I want. And I think losing subscribers through, that series, again, like in the past, low views, losing subscribers, I would pull and I would turn those videos down. I'd turn off the comments. I would pull the video. What video is doing it? Why are they leaving me? But with this one, I was like, okay, so that last video, I lost 10, post another one. Ooh, 20 on that one, post another one. Damn, lost 40, post another one. It's very much like, if you don't want to be here, then go. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I don't need to be an internet top dog. I don't need to be an internet celebrity. I don't need to do crap outside of this little setup in my family room. Okay? And so I was so proud of myself, because me continuing to post is just a lot of growth on my end. And you all may not always be aware of it, but there's been a lot of, and how could you not be aware of it? I complain about everything very loudly, but there's just been a lot of growth for me to even still show up and post. And someone said, or a lot of people said, a couple people said, you should do the All About Love series every February. If I am still here, if I still post next year, then I'll absolutely bring it back. But I can tell you right now, this is going to be the year of the series. I have one planned for the end of the month. I have one planned for March. And basically the ideas come to me and I'm like, let's do it, because it gives me one topic to talk about, one thing to post about. I will say that doing 5 episodes in a row was a bit much. And I think that contributed to the last one being so short. It was like, I just don't have it in me to give this 30 more hours of my time. I just don't. But I think if I had done like 3 episodes, I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm working on that one. I would have been working on that one while the others were being posted, instead of me, but you live and you learn, right? But I definitely was proud of myself, regardless of how many views or how many people were lost in the process. And I've decided this will be the year of the series. So if you like that kind of style of thing, like, oh, she's going to be posting, whatever. And what I'll do is kind of like I did this last one, where I'll post something in the community tab where I'm like, hey, this week's series is about da-da-da. Make sure you check it. I'll let you guys know what time it is and everything. But it helps me stay consistent. It helps me know that I'm treating this space like a professional space. Again, like I used to when I first started and I had these big dreams. Well, now, I ain't got no dreams, but there's always money in the banana stand, right? So how can I still show up in a way that is productive and creative and organic to me? And that's what that was. And that's what other series that I do will probably be. All right. Boy, oh boy, did I talk, If all I had to do was talk, then that last video would have been much longer. But unfortunately, I had to get in there and edit. And so, no, it wasn't. This video, though, the title is, Before We Stop Talking About Love, Can We Talk About Partner Privilege? And it is based on this tweet that I saw, or this thread. I'm sorry, I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Threads. It is based on this thread that I saw written by this young lady. I think she's about 29 years old, and she just got divorced. And she is going into the scary world of being a single person living alone and facing the financial, emotional, and social realities that come with that. And so I thought it would be interesting to talk about the ways in which partnership, committed romantic partnerships specifically, can be a privilege, especially since I feel like a lot of the world, when we talk about romance and we talk about relationships, a lot of people are out there working for big single. And by big single, I mean, if you say you want to be in a relationship, if you say you want to be romantically loved, I remember that was one of the comments that first completely turned me off when I posted my first episode of the All About Love series, was somebody commented, hey, this series kind of makes it seem like you feel like you've missed out. You haven't missed out on anything. And I remember thinking, who are you to tell me what I've missed out on? I absolutely, as a woman who is now in middle age and has never been in there's so much I've missed out on. There's so much I've gained. Let's be clear. We're going to talk about that in this video. but there's a lot that I've missed out on. There's a lot that people who are partnered get to participate in that I've never gotten to participate in and probably won't ever, because I'm at that point in my life where I'm contemplating that. And I want to talk about why that is such a shocking thing to say too, because a lot of people, strapped on their capes and went in to save me in the comment section because they felt like me saying, I don't think I'm going to be in a committed partnership. I'm not, I don't think it's meant for me in this life. I'm not sure. That is speaking things into existence. That is, you got to watch. But why do we take it so seriously? What if I said, I don't think I'm going to drive a race car. I don't think I'm meant to drive a race car in this lifetime. You would not get that same response. There is an emotional investment in the concept of partnership that we have as a society. And I think to combat that emotional investment, everybody who speaks about partnerships and relationships went to go work for Big Single. So by that, I mean, we can't admit that we want to be in relationships. We can't admit that there's something wrong and something lacking in you if that's something that you want. Big Single tells us we are all we need. We don't need nobody, especially if you're a woman. You don't need no man. If you want romantic love, you better work on that self-love. Maybe if you loved yourself more, you wouldn't want romantic love. That's Big Single to me. That's, high. And I'm saying Big Single like people talk about big tobacco or big or big whatever, right? Just this idea, this thinking, this pro single propaganda. And it gets to a point where it's like, there are benefits to being in partnerships, y'all. Stop playing. So I wanted to talk about some of those benefits because when that young woman posted that, and I'll post a link to her thread or whatever, but when she posted that, the comments underneath were just people saying, yo, I know, like I had been in a partnership, I wasn't ready. And then I had to, wait, what? And so outside of just finances, I wanted to talk for a second about the concept of partner privilege, because it's definitely one of those privileges that exist in life. And I think because we have sort of turned our eyes to being more pro-single, we are definitely not as open to discussing these things. And therefore, when someone says, hey, I've never been romantically loved before, what's it like? Our instinct is to say, don't say that. Don't talk about that. There's nothing wrong with never being romantically loved. They're not better than you. But hey, man, I've been paying my own adult bills for 15 years. I see what you're saying, but I also think it's bullshit. So let's talk about some of the privileges of partnership. All right, since the young lady's tweet started off with her talking about just the financial things, and one of the things I picked up from her tweet was her saying, or her thread, I'm sorry. Twitter doesn't even, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm an elder millennial. For 20 years, they were tweets. All right. But one of the things I picked up from her thread was her saying, hey, I feel like I'm on my own financially when right at the time when you're supposed to start building. And I'm on my own. So I wanted to talk about some of the financial privileges that come with partnership. Now, let me say this. We are, for the purposes of this video, focusing on solid, healthy partnership. We're talking about positives. We're talking about a good partnership. We're talking about some of the positive privileges, and we're going to talk about some of the positive financial privileges. So on the everyday, if you rent or you own your home and it comes time to pay your mortgage or pay your bills, I know this past summer there was a challenge over on TikTok, and it was these women saying, challenging or saying to my husband that I don't have the money to pay the mortgage this month. And they would, have set the camera up and they'd be like, hey, babe, I can't pay the mortgage. And the man would be like, what you say? Babe, I can't pay the mortgage this month. Girl, you ain't never paid no mortgage. You ain't paid no mortgage and you... I know, but I can't pay it this month. And over and over and over again, women were posting these lifestyles where they don't have to pay their rent. They don't have to pay their mortgage. Their man has it. For me, that is a definite plus to know that you can go to work, but your money is your money. I'm going to tell you right now, I definitely would do way more stuff, be more experimental. And I would have started doing that a long time ago. People used to ask me, well, could you do more skits? Could you do more this, more that? I need to make money. Okay. And sometimes those things pay, but sometimes they don't. I did one video with a skit like 3 years ago, and it's still sitting at under 30,000 views. Like, I was like, I need to talk about trending topics. I need to talk about things the algorithm wants me to talk about. I need to be up here bitching and complaining, and I need to be up here sharing my sad love stories with the internet because that's what pays. But if I had somebody paying my rent, my mortgage, and my job was just, hey, babe, I know you always wanted to be creative, and now's the time. Just make what you want to make, baby. I got the bills. I would be on here being experimental AF. One of the most freeing things when it comes to being able to explore yourself creatively is knowing that materialistically, monetarily, you're standing on solid ground. It is so freeing. And let's just take it out of that concept. Just everyday life, just living every day, knowing that somebody is making sure that you got your bills paid. Where you lay your head at night is done. Now, of course, there was the other side to this. The women weren't just not paying a mortgage and well, actually, there were some. There were some who they wasn't paying nothing and they were just sitting up in the house looking pretty. I don't have the boobies for that. I feel like if a man is going to pay all the bills, he needs to be able to look over and see something he like to see. And most of the time, I'm in here looking like my name is Rufus, okay? I look like, what's that man from what is his name from that show, The Boondocks? You know, the one with the one eye. Like, I'm in here looking crazy. I do not have the boobies or the face card for a man to pay all my bills all the time because I would be expected to step it up in that department. I don't know if I want to. And then there comes, you know, other demands or things he might have on your life. That actually makes me kind of uncomfortable. But for some people, that's their reality. So let's remove it from that vantage point and let's just talk about the concept of sharing. Sharing the rent. I have not shared and paid rent or shared a space and shared my rent with somebody in a long time. And one of the privileges, I think, of being in a good partnership is you can share rent. I can only imagine what it's like to get a paycheck and be able to say, okay, I can share this much and they're going to take care of this. The same with utilities. Just basic living expenses. It's not all coming out of my pocket. Now, of course, like I said, I've had roommates. But like I've said, I do think that sometimes roommates can provide, it can be strange. And in general, I think whether it's roommates or it's a romantic partnership, if the vibe is right, that sharing of finances when it comes to everyday living expenses is amazing. Now, where marriages and romantic partnerships sort of outpace the roommate thing is the concept of 401ks and retirement. We can both pour into the same account because we plan on doing this retirement thing together. We can both pour into the same vacation accounts. There's more of a melding of finances and resources to where I don't feel like I have to do it all by myself. I was thinking the other day that if I was going to retire today, I could live for about 30 minutes before I would need to go and get a job post haste. So that financial, like whether it's somebody covering all the bills and you ain't got to worry about nothing, or whether it's just someone covering half, 75%, whatever, that is such a blessing. Let's also talk about things like health insurance, which I think is financial. I remember a couple years ago when I was trying to go on my single mom by choice journey, and I just added up how much it was going to cost. I would need several corrective surgeries. I would need to find sperm. I would need to pay for the surgeries, pay for the IUIs and the IVFs and the this and the that. How am I going to pay for it? Well, use health insurance. But I have the Affordable Care Act now because I'm self-employed. This sucks. And when it came down to it, it was just way too expensive for me to do by myself at that time. Way too expensive. And when I hear about people who have married really well, okay, so they're in there and they spouse got some good. I used to be that person that had really great insurance. I remember one of my first years in LA, the teachers went on strike and I was like, what's the problem? What's going on? Why are we mad? And they said, oh, well, the insurance program, they're trying to take it away. And how it went back then, which was almost 10 years ago. Oh my God. But how it went back then was if you worked for the district, everybody in your family had free insurance. They covered everybody. And I used to go in, y'all. I went to the emergency room one time because a bug crawled in my ear. It was $100 emergency room visits. I had surgery, outpatient surgery. Yeah, outpatient. Went in, walked out. $100 for surgery. My friend gave birth twice for $100. Hello? The insurance was, now if you were outside of California and something happened to you, you were stuck. So when I was in Texas during the pandemic, I was like, I can't even get sick. Let me not even play around. But as long as you were in California or in the areas where, because I had Kaiser, as long as you were in that thing, boy, that network wasn't no joke. And you found the right doctors. You had to find the right doctors, but that was pretty good. When you are partnered with the right person, if they have that good insurance plan, you walk right in there, get anything you want done. I used to say, if I had been married around that time, when they were like, look, Stephanie, if you want to be a mom, you can do it, but it's going to be, it's going to be tough. If I had been married to someone who was like, run it up, here's my card, whatever she wants. Y'all might be sitting up here. I might be sitting up here talking about the foods I like to feed my toddler instead of, so I don't think I'm going to date again because what's the point? I mean, having the right partner that can connect you with those things. And let's talk about if like dental insurance. Sometimes you'll have a plan and it's not so great and your partner has a better plan. You can listen. Financial help, whether it comes in the form of I can help you monthly, whether it comes in the form of I can set you up with retirement and savings, I can get you that good insurance. Those are some privileges of having a really great partnership. Otherwise, you're on your own. And let me say this. I know some of you work for Big Single and you're so proud of yourself and I'm proud of you too. And you've done excellently and you can do it. You can afford it all. You can do it all. Hey, listen, I used to be there. I'll be there again. But when those times in life when you're not there, part of the privilege of having a partner, they can lift you up. They can help you out, man. They can come through with the come through. And I can only imagine. Oh, vacations. When everybody look at this lovely picture over here. Yeah. This is what I call my resort years, okay? The next time I go to a resort, an all-inclusive resort, I don't know. I have no idea when that might be. I have no idea when I'd be able to afford such a thing again. And I remember going and just feeling so blessed because I could pay by myself to go for 5 days, 4 nights to an all-inclusive resort. I got a hot tub on the patio, breakfast sent up to my room. I'm paying for my own excursions. I had never done anything like this in my whole adult life. I know some people do it all the time. In fact, in my, I want to call them the good years of my content creation journey from about 2022 to the early part of 2024, I was blessed to go to resorts, I think about 3 times, all inclusive, whatever. And it's such a blessing when you can do it for yourself. But ooh, when I hear about situations, my man took me, for my birthday. It was so sweet. And I can only imagine, yeah. Because listen, I had the money, right, at the time. But I don't want to use my money. I want to use your money, And then not even just that, but what if we went half? I think one of the most unattractive things about the last situation that I dealt with was this person could not grasp the concept of equity. He could grasp it. He was playing dumb. But when something is just fair, like you do half, I do half. You take care of the hotel. Well, the hotel be more expensive, but let's figure out a way to get there and enjoy this together. And here's the other thing. If y'all really locked in, like y'all in a whole marriage, not just, 2 people coming together and want to do something, but y'all in a whole marriage, this could be something that y'all are working towards every single day, every single year. We're putting together something in the pot. I used to work with a woman who, when I was teaching, she was married. And she was like, that's how we ran my marriage, until I got a divorce. He got the bills and I got the thrills, baby. That's what we did. That is awesome. That is another the privilege of partnership. And on that note, let's talk about the type of jobs you can get, the type of jobs you can have. So once again, this job is great. I would say it's fine for single people as long as your content is hidden. you signing in brand deals, and you just getting, I mean, this is one of the best jobs, I think, for women in general. But if that's not what's happening, if that's not how it's going, things change. Things are different. And that's when having the right kind of partner is extremely helpful. I remember when I was a teacher, there was definitely some division there. There were the teachers who rushed to do summer school every year. There were the teachers who were doing the after school tutoring programs. There were the teachers who were doing the Saturday school. Now, sometimes everybody, people are there just because they have a passion for the kids. But those people who would be in their marriages with those big old rocks on their finger, they would come in. They would do their contract hours. They might do a little bit extra, but if they had married well, so to engineers, to lawyers, to whomever, if they had married well, oh, baby, they're leaving at 3:30. And I remember this one time we had done this professional development, and I didn't know when my check was going to come and where I was going to see it on the check. So I burst in the room, looking like a rabid crack addict. Where do we get the checks? Did they put it on the check? And one of my coworkers, she goes, girl, I don't even know. I give my husband my checks as soon as I get them. I don't even see the checks. And I go, oh, well, if they didn't put it on the checks, I'll be sleeping in my car. So somebody tell me when we get them. Like, it's a totally different world when you're working, I know specifically as a teacher, and you have married well versus a single teacher or someone who hasn't married well. Let's move on from the finances here. Let's talk a little bit about the biological perks of partnership. So I'm just going to stick with one or two. So I kind of already talked about one. Specifically, I know with me, when it came to the family planning. So one thing people will do with me is they will argue about my decision not to go forward with my own fertility journey. When I describe like what happened to me and what I discovered and what my body was doing, they want to pop in with, no, but my grandmama and my sister Boo and my auntie Faye, they all da-da-da-da. And I always want to pop back with, okay, but they probably had something I don't have, which was number one, somebody to contribute to this journey. As they found they didn't produce it by themselves. They're not a starfish, Actually, I don't think starfish produce by themselves. But anyway, and number two, I don't know how their journey was, but I know I didn't want to raise no broke baby. Like, let's be real. When I was sitting in that doctor's office and they were like, look, you have a long journey ahead of you, but we could try, I was thinking, what does it look like when we try? And I talked about this in my first video where I talked about it, but I'll just repeat it because again, a lot of times people want to get in the comments and they want to argue with me about, you could do this and you could do this. I'm not doing nothing broke and by myself. I'm not doing nothing. And when I saw and tallied up the costs, using the insurance that I had at that time, and then I thought about the quality of life my child would have. Let me tell y'all something. When I grew up, I not only went to vacation every year, but I went to Disney World in Florida almost every single year. Okay. On top of that, during the summer, my mother could afford to be home. We were home. We had a lovely house when I was growing up. I didn't appreciate it at the time because we were one of the few Black people in the neighborhood. And I felt so ashamed when I went to school and I talked white and I wasn't like the cool kids who came from different, maybe rougher neighborhoods. And so I would put on a whole accent and I would lie about where I was from. That's a true story. It's actually a concept that is explored in this book. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called Black Enough. And it's a number of essays about Black people who grew up wondering about their Black identity because of certain things. I have a standard of living that was set for me from the time I was a child. All I can afford are dogs to maintain this standard of living. I could not bring a baby up in here. I could also not give that child what I had. Like I said, Disney World every summer. What else? Activities. I did an extracurricular activity every year. I may not have liked it because they had me in basketball and soccer and track and things I don't like for a really long time. But once I got into something I liked, I was in all-star cheer, school cheer. I had a private every week. I could not give my child that. My child would grow up, or my child would have grown up struggling, and I would have struggled. And then maybe we even might have resented each other. And I think I also brought up the fact that, there's there was a lack of sociological network as well, which is something you can also get if you have a great partner. Maybe you don't come from a big social network. Maybe you don't come from, whatever. Your partner might. Your partner might be the one that knows a lot of different types of people. If I had a son and I was married, well, I've never been a busybody. I've never been somebody who likes to talk and meet everyone and be all up in everybody's business. But maybe my husband would have been a great networker, would have known. So we would have met people through him. My baby was going to be broke and lonely, okay, and grew up in a house with a mom who mostly sings to herself and colors in her coloring book, okay? And I would have done what I could to give the child a good life, but I would not have been able to provide anything even close to what I had. So there were really so many reasons I walked away from my parenthood dreams, but a lot of them had to do with the fact that I was doing it by myself and I wasn't in the position to. Some women are. I wasn't. And so biologically, family planning. When I was 35, I had a miscarriage. And I was so let down by that because I was like, this might be the last time that I get to try. Because the situation that I was in, the whole whatever that was going on at that time crumbled right after the miscarriage. He went straight up missing, never to be found again. Okay. And I was really left with, not only did I have a miscarriage, not only did I find out this guy is a horrible, hideous liar, but now I have to get back on the apps and start swiping again. Like I felt like I was taken and just thrown back into the gallows. So now not only am I worried about, am I ever going to get the chance to get pregnant again, but now I'm going back to square one. Oh, and then after that, we went to a pandemic. So now I can't. And let me tell you something. During that pandemic, do you know how many stories there were of people who met on a dating app, who met through the DMs, whatever, right? So it could happen. It was a possibility. Didn't happen for me, but I digress. I had a friend who had a miscarriage in around their late 30s. And they went to the doctor like I went to the doctor. And unlike me, the doctor was like, yo, girl, you look, you could still, your body, your reproductive system looks amazing. Like, maybe there was a chromosomal issue with the baby and that's why you miscarried. But honestly, you look great. You should try again when you're ready. Now, unlike me, my friend was in a good partnership, solid. So she didn't have to go back to, can I find a new baby daddy? Do I still have time? All she had to do was turn and look at her husband and say, did you hear what they said? So when we're ready, we'll try again. And do you know what, friends? One day she was ready and they did try again and they were able to have a healthy baby. So a privilege of partnership can also be that biologically you're not by yourself. Oh, and you know what? Sex is a part of biology. One thing that Big Single would have us believe is that sex is bad. And I don't mean sex is like, whatever, but the sex shaming. It was like when I was growing up, Samantha from Sex and the City was like who we were all supposed to try and be like, One of the things, though, that she put a stamp on my generation, Samantha was that kind of representative of how millennial women who weren't in purity culture were supposed to look at sex. Keep it casual. Don't get your feelings in it. Have sex like the men. Now, what I see happening is the pendulum swung completely in the other way for the next generation. And it is abstain. Doing things like that hurt my feelings, so I'm going to abstain. I don't want to make a bunch of connections with people who don't want me for me. I'm going to abstain. And I'm like, yes, I like this. I understand this. But at the same time, I also know that sex is a good thing. It's a good thing to be able to explore your sexuality, especially when you're young and your body can do things at the drop of a dime. One of the things that scares me about getting older, if I ever try and date again, is the concept of dating when my hormones are shifting. And there was a story in BuzzFeed a couple weeks ago where Naomi Watts was talking about her first time being intimate with her husband, the man who's now her husband, Billy Crudup. And she was so embarrassed that he might see her hormone patch. So she goes to the bathroom and she tries to like scrub it off. And he's like, are you all right in there? What's going on? Hello? And she comes out and she's like, I got to tell you something. I'm in menopause. And so I've got this patch on and I have to, and he responds, we're the same age. How can I help you? And I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to wait then until that happens. Because I don't really know how I'm going to manage that whole, part of my life if I am ever even in that position. But that is something that does scare me. And I think about how my sexual life kind of evolved, and how a lot of it was trying to be a Samantha when I was really a Charlotte. Okay. And I was trying to be okay with hookup culture and just do it. Just put yourself out there. Just swipe, just rah. But that's not who I was. And in being more me, well, let's just say the phone dried up, the offers dried up. Sometimes raising your standards means you stand alone. And that means you waste a lot of good, very spicy sexual years. And so one of the great things about being in the right partnership, and this is with any sexuality, doesn't matter. You get to explore your body, explore what you like, what you don't like, become extremely comfortable with yourself and your partner, and do it in a safe and secure environment. That is gold, baby. That is gold. And that is one thing that I'm absolutely, when people say, don't act like you missed out. I missed out. I missed out on that. I missed out. The last thing I want to talk about when I talk about the privileges of partnership is the emotional privileges. Let's just talk about how it must feel, feeling like and I don't know if people who are partnered always feel like this. So this is maybe more so for someone who was not partnered for a long time and then became partnered, but feeling like you won. You finally won. It's finally your turn. I was thinking about it and I said, a big reason why people have such an issue with me saying, you know what, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to date anymore. Like I'm good. In fact, keep them away from me. Somebody wrote in the comments of one of my videos, they said, the universe responds. Watch what you say, death and life and the power of the tongue. And I wrote back, universe, if you're listening, keep them away from me. All of them. Don't let another one come near me. I'm serious. And, I don't think people really understand that you really can get to a point where you're like, no, I would rather never experience anything again than go through another negative experience. I don't want to give nobody a chance. Like I'm good. I would rather just have peace. And as far as like the universe hearing and responding, I'm at that point now that Lieutenant Dan was in Forrest Gump. If you've seen Forrest Gump, you know what I'm talking about. He's on the ship and Forrest is on the ship with him. This is after they done fought in Vietnam. Forrest done found him again. They're on the ship. And he says, well, you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan ain't got no legs. His legs ain't got blown off in Vietnam. And he was supposed to be a soldier and a captain like everybody in his family. And now he's handicapped and he feels like God forgot about him. And he's on this ship and then the ship starts to storm. And the ship is the last thing he has. And Forrest is afraid and he's like, Lieutenant Dan, what are we going to do? And he finds Lieutenant Dan out on the deck of the ship and he is screaming at the sky, God, if you're going to take this last thing from me, then you take it. I'm so tired of losing. You do your worst. I'm tired of it. And, the lightning is striking and Forrest is like, don't talk to God like that, Lieutenant Dan. He can't believe. But this man is angry. He's like, I've been through too much. I don't care anymore. Flip this boat right now. And then the morning comes and we see that the storm subsided. And Lieutenant Dan is the happiest he's ever been. He's finally free. He has faced the worst. He has seen it. He has challenged God. Are you going to do worse than this? Because if you are, you might as well take me. And he sees he's not taken. I think sometimes on the other side of that fear, don't say that. Don't put that out in the universe. Say it. Say the scary thing. Say the thing that you think might not happen. Say the thing that you think. That's where I am right now. It's almost like a challenge. Every time I say, don't bring me one, I'd like to see you do it. I'd like to see you do it. I told y'all before I had a friend in my life who was like, well, Stephanie, the universe doesn't understand. Don't, yes, no, all it hears is the words. I said, girl, shut up. Okay. But she was saying that because we had known somebody who swore up and down she would never get married. She would never have kids. That's not what she wanted. Years later, girl had given birth to all kind of babies and was in a happy marriage. So whenever people say, don't put that out there, don't say that. At this point in my romantic life, I'm like, no, every time I say it, it's a challenge. I challenge. I challenge. Let's see. Anyway, moving on. There's this concept of when you finally get into a romantic relationship, you get there, you've won. You've figured it out. So many societies base your status and your status in society and your status as a human being and your worth, oh God, especially if you're a woman, on whether or not you were partnered, whether or not you got married. Being married is how we know God loves you. It's how we know having children, he's blessed your home. It's how we know you've been blessed. The concept of I don't want to have kids, I don't need to be married, that's relatively new. And that's why so many people have such a hard time accepting it. By so many people, I mean, extremely conservative people. It's relatively new, right? And so we place so much importance on that. I can only imagine that emotionally, once you finally get there, there is a sense of, or a sense of, yes. I saw this girl. She was on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, something. And she kept, every one of her pictures looks like this. She's showing her ring off in every picture. It's a status symbol. It's a sign that you have your place on the social hierarchy. It means something in society to be a partnered woman, especially a married woman, especially as a Black woman. I am going to tell you right now that I hate that I never met the right person while I was doing content and it was generating a lot of views, because that would have been money in the bank, baby. That would have been money in the bank. Last year, she was talking about not having pretty privilege. And this year, she's here with her boo. Stephanie, tell us all about can you imagine? Can you imagine the brand deals? Can you imagine the opportunities? If I was sitting up here with a big old ring on my finger after, people love to see a story reach a happy ending. Another comment I got in my All About Love series. I want to see you date serious people and end up with the one. Why? Why? Because it will bring the story to a happy ending. It gives you, the viewer, a sense of closure, and closure feels good. Being partnered correctly gives you that sense of closure. This journey, that was begun in me, this place or position I was taught that I needed to take up in society. I'm here. I did it. I made it. I won. I also want to say that there is a lot to be gained from partnership emotionally, the right kind of partnership, when it comes to how you feel about yourself. There is so much I judge myself for, and I will look over at someone who is partnered, and they're like, oh, girl, I don't worry about that no more. Whether that's attitude, whether that's physicality. Like right now, I'm looking at myself in the camera. I'm like, oh, my eyebrows. Oh, they're not. Oh. And then, I remember when the last situation I was involved in with a man, the amount of negative I saw in my own reflection was very, very, very diminished, because this man was such a fan of me physically. Only thing he was a fan of, but such a fan. So when I looked at myself, it was almost like I looked at myself through his eyes. I could hear what he would say when I would take a picture before I would even send it to him. I could hear how he might respond to something before I could even, I sent him a video one day and I was talking and I thought I was showing him one thing, and he responded and he was like, oh, you're so cute. Look how excited you get on the camera. Like you love being on I do. There is a way that someone who loves you and has partnered with you can look at you and can receive you that is so bolstering to your sense of self. And it makes me so upset when people act like, when single people or people that have never had that are like, oh man, whatever. And someone's like, that has to come from you. You have to. No, some things we learn to love about ourselves come from how we are received by others. And in certain situations, when it comes to romantic partnerships, that is especially true.
I wanted to also take a moment and talk about the social advantages of being in a partnership or a really well-suited romantic partnership. I have come up with a saying, and that is, or maybe it's not a new saying, but whatever. Love covers a multitude of sins. And perhaps it's not a new saying. Hey, perhaps it's even from the Bible. But what I mean by that is when you are successfully romantically partnered, there is a certain humanity that is extended to you that is not extended to single people. You are allowed to have anxiety issues. You're allowed to have attachment issues. You're allowed to have certain issues with maybe eating or like body issues. You're allowed to have you're allowed to be sick. You're allowed to be depressed. There are so many things about you that are accepted and allowed because, well, at least you were good enough to be loved. Has anyone noticed that? I've noticed it. Anyway, my theory here is perhaps best illustrated in an episode from Bridgerton from season 3. It was episode 2. And in this episode, two of the characters go to a party for the first time in like upper society. I forget their names. I'll put them here on the screen. And when they go to the party, they're walking around and they're noticing people's behavior is just not what they've been trained to know is okay. So people are drinking, men and women are laughing, and they're all over each other. And they ask one of the Bridgerton brothers, they're like, how are people doing this? Should I even be here? This party seems very, very morally like loose. And the Bridgerton brother, I think it was Benedict, I don't know the names, whatever. The important one is Anthony, but this isn't about him. Is that his name? Moving on. He says to the young man who asked, he says, oh, the couples that you're seeing that are drunk, that are laughing, that are falling all over each other, that are acting basically really, really lasciviously in public, they're married. All of those rules and regulations we have, those are only so that we can sweeten the marriage market, or so that the marriage market is made sweeter. But once you fulfill that obligation, once you've made it through the marriage market and you've made it into a relationship, once you're married, you're free. And I absolutely feel that way about partnership. When you're not partnered, everything is wrong with you. For everything that someone has said is wrong with me and is the problem or is the impediment that I faced to receiving partnership, I have seen people with the exact same thing walk into wonderful, loving partnerships. And I have seen people who are in partnerships and they're absolute terrors, but their dignity, their persona, it's never on display. They're never up for question. Why? Well, they're in a partnership. And part of the privilege of partnership is a lot of your little idiosyncrasies, a lot of the darker parts of you. Society turns a blind eye because, hey, at least you're married. You could be the most established, educated, kindest person in the world. But what are they going to ask about you, especially if you're a woman? Well, what's wrong with her that she's not married then? Tracy Ellis Ross is a great example of this. She can post a photo and she is my body goals forever and ever. Amen. Men will be underneath the photo talking about she looked this bad. Why she ain't married then? Partnership, love, commitment covers a multitude of sins. And without it, for some, when it comes to their acceptance by society, they will forever be on the outside. So I think that's one of the biggest privileges of partnership is just belonging in society just as you are and not having to be perfect to be thought of as deserving of love. Okay, moving on.
Okay, I've been babbling for a while now. I'm going to get to some of the negatives because I promised they would be here. So let's go. Whenever I was watching the videos of the women being like, I don't even know how to pay the mortgage, part of me was like, bitch. But the other part of me was like, oh no. What happens if he runs off in the middle of the night with his secretary? What happens when he locks you out of your accounts? What happens when he freezes everything? And a lot of those women would get those comments in their comment section and they would pop back with, I'm sorry that that's how your marriage is, but that's never going to happen to me. And honestly, you never know. But somebody can definitely practice coercive control over you when they control your finances, when they're the reason why you have enough to eat. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about biologically for a second. You have a lot of men that don't respect women's needs when it comes to their bodies. There's a woman right now on TikTok, I think, and she is pregnant 4 months postpartum, which would mean, first of all, do whatever you want to do, have whatever babies you want to have. But I don't know if that's the healthiest thing. And there are stories about men trying to have sex with their wives right after they've given birth. So when you're partnered with somebody who sucks, that respect of your body and your space and your health and what you need, it's definitely One of the things that I've loved is that I've been an independent agent when it comes to that. You don't have access to me unless you do A, B, and C. And I know that when women started to be able to divorce their husbands, when women started to be able to get their own credit cards, to do their own thing, situations like rape within marriages, those kind of cases went down a great deal. Women used to be married and stay married because they had no way out. And so one of the great things about modern times and rules and laws that changed is that kind of thing changed. Also, biologically, when you are with the wrong person, the stress on you, that is a silent killer. And that's why a lot of people, when they get divorced, a lot of women will be very happy. Yay! I am without that dead weight. I am without that person pulling me down. I am without all of those realities about our partnership that made me feel a certain way internally. Let's talk about socially. So when you have the wrong partner, socially, that is one of the things that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I'm going to say this, especially a Black woman. I said this during the summer and I really do mean it, but for a Black public figure, for a Black woman who's a public figure, people finding out that your romantic relationship is garbage is the same as them finding out that a white person said the N-word. You will get canceled so fast. Yeah, I used to like her, but did you hear what she let that man do? I couldn't fool with her no more after that. For a Black woman, having a no good person attached to you, especially publicly, is, I mean, it's not good. And it's not good privately either. The way people will talk about you, that I don't know why you stay with him. I don't know why. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not saying they shouldn't have a comment, but it definitely will affect your relationships outside of that union, whether you're ready to leave or not. Every other relationship outside you is affected by that. And eventually you become known as whatever quality your relationship was, if people know about it. And finally, emotionally, sometimes it takes forever to heal from the wounds of a bad partnership. Last relationship I ever had, I was 25 years old. And this was a conversation that also happened in the comments. Someone was saying that if you tell a man you don't have a lot of experience, he could weaponize it against you. And I was like, that is what happened to me. I'm not going to go into detail, but so many things about my performance as a girlfriend, whether they were ideas I had, things I wanted to do, things he saw me do, I was criticized. And the underlying criticism was always, you don't even know what you want. You don't even know what you like. You've never had a boyfriend before. You don't know anything. Consistently tearing me down to the point where after that situation, I was like, I would rather go to my grave than a man know what I have or have not had in my life. Now, I'm a little bit different because I got on the internet and started talking about it. So now I give somebody, the last situation I dealt with, for example, I'm going to give you one or two times to do the right thing. And then I'm going to tell you, you will never get over on me with this. I've never had that experience before. You're not going to F up my first time. Do it this way or we don't do it at all. And then of course, it's, oh, she's such a bitch. But you know what? I'd rather be that than you think you can get away with tearing me down or not treating me the way I feel like I should be treated. But not being in the right partnership, not being with the right person, emotionally, like, that can be something you never heal from. And I'm not even talking about, the abuse you can experience. I'm not even talking about just the disassociation with your own body. I've known people who carry around criticisms about their bodies that were said to them by a boyfriend they had 10 years ago. This stuff can stick with you. So there's definite downsides to partnership as well. All right, I have babbled. And one of my dogs is whining like Samantha, like she has never been fed in her life. So it's time to do that. But I did want to wrap up my love conversations. Once I saw this little thread or whatever, I was like, this is something I wanted to talk about too. And I will say this, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series was because I had so many ideas about the topic of love and relationships. However, I do think I've got a lot of bitterness stored up from years and years of having my own personal experiences used as a training ground or a battleground from people who ingest content in a certain way. And so I think if I talk about these things again, I will take a different angle. But like I said, this year is the year of the series, so stay tuned. There are more coming. Thank you for staying to the end of this video if you did. And because I did lose a few people with my last series, I've decided to switch up my sign off. And I'm going to say it like this. Thank you for, what was it? Thank you so much for, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I see you again. And if I don't, thank you for watching. Oh, that can't be it. I still got to work on it. We'll work on it. All right. See you next time. Or maybe not. Whatever. I got to go. This is way too long.